Good afternoon, guys. Welcome to the What podcast, Two Swigs and a Cig, episode 11. Can you believe it? Well, it's gone so quick. We have Cobra back. You haven't been on for
Hey guys, how you all doing?
yeah, you haven't been on for 4 weeks, mate. Looking forward to you being on today. And we have Camel Finance.
Hello.
Cool. Hello. Change for my hello.
Hello.
Thanks, guys. Really interesting one. Title for this one's going to be the mindset and mentality of investing. I'm going to try and split it up into two parts because I think since obviously Cobra hasn't been around on the podcast for 4 weeks now, there's been so much been going on around the world. And I've just written down a few things. Obviously, we've still got the unrest in Ukraine. That's an ongoing thing. We've had attacks in Russia recently, been on the news from different not sects of religion based, whatever. France riots, that's been going off over in France around the elections, and it's been sort of a real litmus paper over there. Middle East is continued problems, and that's escalating with opinions around the world. The UK recently, a lot of unrest. I believe it's kicking off again today in Leeds. We've had all sorts of issues going on recently. And America, what can I say? What's been
Well,
going on over America with the incident that happened? I believe it was last weekend. And I thought that'd be really cool because obviously, Cobra Stacker, you've just been to America, haven't you?
I have, and I was in Florida, which is Trump's state.
Hmm.
So yeah, a lot of chat over there when it all happened, and yeah, it's just very different, very, very volatile at the moment.
Yeah, very. So, what's going on? Anyone that obviously follows Camel Finance's channel, I think he's been giving us a heads up on this sort of process for ages now. Anyone that's followed the channel should know that. But it seems to be coming to rest and more and more and more. What are your thoughts, guys, on what's really going on? Where are we going? Where are we going? Is this part of this fourth turning bit, or do you believe in that? Not believing it? Are we just heading for a bit of a bad time? So, whoever wants to answer that first, go for it.
Camel.
How do how do we answer that? I mean,
I know.
it's a wild time, right? It's a wild time. There, it seems to be ramping up, and that has sort of been expected. I think it's going to probably continue to ramp up. I think a lot of it is likely to function as part of almost as a distraction and almost as I don't know how to describe it. It's like they need to create chaos so that out of that chaos they can bring in order. That's what I think we're seeing. I do think we're in the fourth turning, but I don't think we're at the late stages. I think that's later in the decade that it starts to get really fourth turning esque. Um, and then of course there's the whole Trump thing, which I'm sure we'll get into a bit later on. That's that was not on my bingo card at all. That really caught me by surprise, to be honest. Um, but I mean, generally speaking, the markets are moving the way they're expected to move, and the unrest is kind of picking up the way it was expecting to. So I think we just got to keep taking it one day at a time, really.
For me, I
Absolutely.
think there's a lot going on all over the world, and there's a lot of unrest politically. And I think the major players like BlackRock and all that lot are really playing some dangerous games. And again, when we talk about Trump, we'll delve into that a bit more. But I think they're involved in a lot of stuff. I think a lot of around the world, with different elections that are going on, like we talked about France, and obviously America's coming up, and we've had ours. Things are being lined up for failures in the system, and then blame will be allocated to certain people or parties, shall we say. But I think the big financial institutions are playing a massive game at the moment. And I would even delve to say are involved in turning points like with the Trump attempted assassination, are involved with that side of things. I don't sit here and think a 20-year-old went off and tried to shoot the president or ex-president of America on his own. And there's a lot of evidence to back that up at the moment. I've been looking into it quite a bit. So there's a lot of volatility. There's a lot of things going on. I tend to agree with Camel to a certain extent that it's not an immediate thing, but it is all rolling in that direction, shall we say.
Yeah, I think it's quite, I think it's quite evident that, and it seems to be speeding up a little bit. I don't know whether that's just because of our awareness of possibly what can happen. But before we go any further, there's some really interesting, juicy stuff to get into there. Can I just ask everyone that watches this podcast, can you please, please, please subscribe? We now, almost every episode now, we're getting over 1,500 hits, like views on the videos, which is super fantastic. And I really appreciate you coming. But it'd be really cool to get those subscriptions up. It really helps the channel. We can get noticed more. Thank you for all the comments and everything. I really appreciate it. But yeah, it'd be really cool to get those subs up. Yeah, sorry, go on. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think somebody said, I think it might have been Cobra. Did you say the failure of the system? Did you say that? Yeah, it almost feels to me like they're trying to, they know the system's failing, right? And they know that we're kind of late in these cycles and things are going to start to get a bit wild and volatile. And there might be a recession in the not too distant future and all of these things. I can't help but wonder if the idea here is to, because they kind of have two options, right? One is they could just let it organically crash and then it's on them, right? Or I do wonder if the idea is to get all of this unrest going, riots, all of this chaos, and then in amongst that, it kind of creates the illusion that the people have torn the system down and that we have the power, right? They kind of, that's why I can't help but wonder if they know the system's going to blow up, so they sow a bunch of unrest and make everyone fight against each other and pick a side, or whether that's, you know, this political party or that political party or whatever it is, right? As long as people pick a side and have a row over it, then it kind of creates this unrest. And then through that unrest, it kind of creates the illusion that the people are sick of the system, they've had enough, and therefore they start to demand change. And then out of demanding for that change, the people that have caused the very chaos and this entire financial system collapse that's pending can then offer whatever their new solution is. And I think it possibly is being orchestrated so that it creates the illusion that the people have kind of demanded this is what shows up, when in fact the whole thing was, you know, the game plan all along. That's kind of how it feels to me.
I absolutely agree. And we've said it several times before. Cause unrest, cause chaos, and then come in as a savior. You know what I mean? And that's exactly how it feels to me. Everything is being led in a certain way. And we've talked about it many, many times, about even from institutionalized things like colleges and unis and all that lot, feeding them with certain information. So that generation comes up, causes more chaos and fights and all that. And everyone is fighting about something, whether it be the wokeness, whether it be the crashes of the economy or recession and all the rest of it, or the hardships that are going to come from a recession, people losing their houses, jobs, this, that, and the other, AI, there's so much which is causing destruction at the moment and chaos. And I agree, it will look like the people are causing the chaos, but everything has been orchestrated, and it will be a thing of, and in the end, they step in and go, right, we've got the solution to the whole lot. And they look like, yes, you know, they've put in a system which will really help the people. No, they've cornered us in, they've positioned us into a corner, and we'll be fighting our way out of it.
Yeah, problem, reaction, solution, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Create a problem, stir up a reaction, and then offer the solution as the savior, right?
Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree.
I think maybe where we've gotten to now is we're in the reaction phase. I think they're starting to stir the reaction up. That kind of makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I think it's been going on for a couple of years. And I think, like CPM said, that maybe we notice it a bit more because, you know, we look into this a lot more and we chat about it and all that lot. But there's definitely a massive movement going on. And look, the thing is, look, I don't want to go into the Trump side too quickly because I know CPM's got a structure for this, but it is relevant. That is not over. Those big financial institutions and people, there was so much done the day before the attempted assassination with investing into Trump and different things. they cannot allow him to take power. There will be another attempt on him, and they are going to do everything they can to stop that geezer. And this is what I said before. I'm not a big fan of Trump, but I definitely have a new respect for him because he's not controlled by any of the institutions as such. Um, he's an independent in the way of he's been an independent man financially and all the rest. And as I say, I don't agree with a lot of his stuff, but he's against them lot, or it's not working in their favor. And I just think, yeah, it's all controlled in a certain way to a certain extent, but that didn't go the way they expected.
Yeah, and the very fact that the very fact they attempted his life, they made an attempt on his life, to me says that they were running scared.
Yes,
Because, or at least they were getting desperate, right?
yes,
Whichever way you want to spin it. But they, whether they succeeded or not, they signaled to the world that they really don't want this man in charge, right? They,
absolutely. And why
that,
are they scared of him?
yeah, that says a lot. That obviously says that he is not somebody that can be bought, at least to the extent
Exactly.
of the other people. So, oh, it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy.
And this is why I say this isn't over. And do you
You're
know
probably right.
if he had been assassinated that day, oh, the unrest in America would have been unbelievable.
Yeah.
It would have been unbelievable. There would have been riots. There would have been fighting. There would have been all sorts going on. And I think we're very close to that coming. I don't think it's over. As I say, they cannot let him get into power. They do not want him in power, and they're big enough not to stop. One way or another, they'll break him down.
Yeah, they're going to try. I agree with you there. Whether or not they can succeed is another thing. The
Yeah,
question becomes, how desperate are they going to get, right? Like, are they just, are they just going to go to very extreme lengths, or I don't know. I don't know, but I think you're
I
right.
think so.
They are probably going to try it again, right?
100%. But the thing is, it doesn't have to be an assassination like what we saw or attempted assassination like that. There are so many ways they can get to him. So
Yeah,
many ways. And
yeah,
so, like in the game that I play with the close protection and all that, I understand a bit of that side of it. The protection on him now will be so severe in the way of even his food, where the food is bought from, how it is transported, checked, inventoried, packaged, and everything down to those details and so many others. Flights that he takes, the equipment he uses has to be checked, but they only have to infiltrate his security detail and
yeah,
get one or two people to be on their side, basically, and he's in a lot of trouble.
yeah.
You know, there's many ways to get rid of someone if you want to get rid of them. Many, many, many ways, and the checks that have to go into that are unbelievable.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough, isn't it, to
Very tough to
make sure
protect
that
him.
everyone on the inside is really on the inside.
Yeah, and again, brother, if it happens, whatever way it happens, it is going to cause chaos.
Yeah, I agree.
Chaos.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's a very dangerous situation with that. Very
Cool.
dangerous.
Can I just you asked a really good question during that thing there, Cobra. I'm just going to come back to that, but I just wanted to ask you. You've just come back from America, Florida. It's a bit of a Trumpy state, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I know you was on holiday, but
Mm.
did you sort of pick up any sort of sentiment of how that part of the world in America is feeling? I've actually got a client that I deal with that lives in Florida too, and every now and then she'll ask me to do some work in the UK, and we always say like, "How you doing?" And she's, "Oh, it's getting worse," and all this sort of stuff. Doesn't go into too much detail, but I was just wondering, like, did you pick up any
Well,
sort of sentiment from local people or anything on your
prior to
travels?
the prior to the attempted assassination, I chatted to a few people just in general and all that sort of stuff, and they were talking about Biden and the state he's in and all that sort of stuff, and that Trump would be the ideal person to take over and all that lot. And I had some nice conversations, nothing deep. After the attempted assassination, the mood had changed in Florida massively. There was a lot of anger at what had happened, a lot of shock, a lot of surprise. It really took everyone by surprise. I mean, I couldn't believe it when I heard it. Do you know what I mean? So it changed the temperament. But I definitely know that even people who don't like Trump and weren't voting for Trump and may still not vote for Trump did say that they can feel that there is something else going on. That, as I said, it was very, very easy to say, have a patsy there, which was a 20-year-old boy who, was no good at shooting and this, that, and the other and all the rest of it. But no one, I don't think anyone or very few people are stupid enough to believe that that was the only person involved in it. And when you start looking back at videos, even the, what was it? The vice president of the FBI was in the background, a female. And prior to the actual first shot, she was standing, she sat down, she looked in the direction of the shooter twice, held up a sign to hide herself a bit. And then when the shooting happened, her reaction was uncanny. There was no reaction on her face or anything. And then she sort of dropped down slowly with everyone else and came straight back up with her phone filming it. And there's so many little things like that. And people are talking about it massively at the moment, massively out in America.
It's weird. The more you look into it, the more questions it produces, right?
Absolutely.
Because
and then, sorry,
it's either severe incompetence or is a quote unquote deep state attack, right? It's one of these two. Either one is pretty scary.
100% a deep state attack.
Yeah, that's where I lean as well.
100%.
That is where I lean as well, for sure.
100%, brother. Even as I say, like with BlackRock and a few others, there was a whole list of people who had majorly made some moves on Trump assets and investments. And obviously, when it happened, the way it didn't happen, should I say, as in it wasn't actually he wasn't assassinated. There was a big unrest in the financial markets because of it, because they had made moves that it would happen. And it didn't work out the way they wanted. So,
did you also see the 19-year-old shooter was in a BlackRock commercial? Did you see that?
Yes. So the commercial was done at his college or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And it was about supporting students and education and all that lot. So yes, I did see that as well. And BlackRock are obviously trying to distance themselves now massively from all of it. They removed the advert from everywhere. There was also an investment made of 120,000 or million or something like that. And straight after it didn't happen, shall we say, that line was taken out of the ledgers. So it was removed.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's some major, major stuff going on here, and it's dangerous.
Okay. So before we go any further, the What podcast is quite an unbiased podcast. We don't affiliate to either side of the political stuff that's going on, but I just wanted to make that clear. But as I've always said, I love these conversations because at the same time, I really want people to express themselves. Feel free to look at it maybe a little bit more openly if you want, guys, but if you don't, then that's fine. I might throw a few spanners in the work as you go along. Cobra, you said earlier on, you've said a lot. It's so cool to have you back, dude. So cool.
Oh, thank you. I've missed it.
Bringing the fire today. I love it.
It is. Yeah, it's great. It's superb. It's absolutely superb. It's what, we want real good passion, all the time. You said, why are they scared? And I thought that was really, and we sort of didn't really go into that. Why do you guys think that Trump is a problem, or why the other side, whoever the other side is, are scared that he can get into power? Why do you think?
Camel, you go first.
I think it's because he possibly can't be bought and controlled in the same way the others can. And I notice a pattern, right? Do you notice I think they call it the 3 lives rule, where the first one is they kind of defame you and slander your name and make you out to be this terrible person in the media. It's like a mass media attack, and they cancel you and all of that stuff. That's the first life. The second life is they try to put you in jail for something that you probably didn't do, right? And then if both of that fails, then we see the attempt on your life. That's the third life. And we've seen this with a whole heap of celebrities, right? First they get cancelled. First they get, all the media turns on them and accuses them of stuff. Then if that doesn't work and they don't pipe down and they keep, going against the grain, then they end up in jail for usually some kind of alleged sex crimes or something like that. And then if they still aren't tamed by the jail sentence, or if they manage not to end up in jail, then that's when it moves to phase 3, which is that third life and the assassination attempt. So it seems to me like we saw the first two play out with Trump, right? We saw, first of all, they kind of accused him and tried to cancel him and all of this stuff, and then that didn't really work, right? He's still the most popular. And then then they try and throw him in jail, and that didn't work either. Note how we saw the same thing with Andrew Tate as well, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
First they try to cancel.
Just thinking that. Yeah.
Yeah. First they try to cancel him and make him out to be, you know, whatever, like toxic masculinity, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
That didn't work. Then he goes to jail over a pizza box, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Spends some time in a Romanian jail with his brother. Then there's never any evidence, and they keep accusing him of all this stuff, but it goes to court and then eventually gets thrown out. He's put on house arrest for, I think it was about 2 years. He wasn't allowed out of Romania, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I think he is finally allowed out now. And then, yeah, you know, if assuming he keeps doing his thing, then there's a good chance that the third life is an assassination attempt as well. So it's very, very interesting.
But you've noticed how quiet he's gone now.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, and to be fair, I kind of understand.
Yeah,
yeah.
He knows. He knows he's at risk, and I think you're absolutely right. And I said it previously in one of our conversations. The thing about Trump is he can't be bought. He can't be bought. And what his policies are or certain things doesn't fit in with their agenda. Now, what I'm confused about is if you really want him not to have a chance to be president again, why the hell are you putting up Biden against him? Now, obviously, Biden and the family want him to stay in, and he's adamant he's going to stay in. And so if they don't have a choice in that, which I don't understand, because surely the party, if they wanted a different leader in there, would put a different leader in there. Just put someone who is stronger than Trump, or, you know, has more charisma, or can put a sentence together would help. Put that person against Trump, and you've got more chance of Trump not becoming president. But you're right, they're doing everything to defame him, to put him in prison, or give him a criminal record. And one person in America said, oh yeah, look at what we've got. We've got one guy who's got dementia and the other guy is a criminal. And I thought, a criminal in what context? Because the same things have been done by Biden, very similar things, and many others, and no one else has ever been prosecuted, ex-president or running president, for those same things. So how was it okay to do it to Trump? And again, believe me, I don't have a big affiliation with Trump. I'm not a massive Trump supporter, but I'm logical with it. And I have to be fair on it. You know what I mean? What they are doing is wrong. And they're breaking down this so-called democracy and this so-called, you know, we have elections and it's the people's voice. It's not the people's voice. It never has been the people's voice. And this is proof of it. And they're breaking down a system totally and ruining the whole political system.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's probably not a politician that's high up at all, right? That hasn't committed some kind of financial crimes, whether it's insider trading, whether it's taking a bribe, lobbying, or whatever else. They're all guilty of something, right? But you never, like you said, you never hear of any of it. And it's funny that it almost does sound a little bit like a pro-Trump podcast, right? But you got to understand, we're all Englishmen. We don't have a dog in this fight whatsoever, you know? So it's definitely not like that. We're just pointing at things and saying that the world looks like a messed up place right now, and there seems to be this kind of conflict at the highest possible level, right? You seem to have these like two separate groups of, I don't want to use this term lightly, but like elites. You seem to have these two opposing groups of elites. And one of them seems to be this kind of deep state idea, which is probably moving towards the CBDCs and the tyranny and the control. And then we might have this kind of white hat elite as well that are pro-freedom, pro-humanity, pro-free speech. And I suspect that's what we're seeing at the highest level, is this kind of fallout between the two.
You're absolutely right. There is definitely conflict within the major families. There is definitely conflict going on, and disagreements and all that sort of stuff within those higher echelons. And this is where the problem comes. The ones who are going to feel it in the end are us lot. You know, they will do what they do and they are protected to a certain extent. But we're the people who are going to feel it, because it's going to be chaos for us financially and through social unrest.
Yep. I have to agree. I've been expecting the social unrest to really start to ramp up around the time of the Olympics. And I suspect that it's probably going to get a lot worse before it gets a lot better. I do expect it
Absolutely.
to dissipate. I don't expect us to just descend into Mad Max and a zombie apocalypse. But I do think that in the shorter term, right? Let's say the next 12, maybe 18 months, I would expect this kind of to become the new normal for a while, I think.
Well, as CPM pointed out, we've had the riots in France going on. I didn't know about this Leeds thing. I don't know what that's about. Maybe I've missed it in the last couple of weeks. What's that about?
As far as I'm aware, it's got nothing to do with the UK at all. It was, I mean, I want to fact check myself on this, but what I heard was it was something to do with somebody in India killed someone else in India, and now they're writing about it in Leeds.
Right.
So
Well, we see this a lot in the Indian communities.
Right.
They live over here. They're living their life over here. Something happens in India, and they feel like they have to make a statement over here, which to me is absolutely pathetic. If you want to be involved in it, then go to India and be involved in it. Do you know what I mean? But why are you bringing unrest into the country you live in when it's nothing to do with us over here? The political party in India at the moment, JPS, not JPS, bloody hell, that's a cigarette.
John Player Special.
Yeah. And not JPS. Oh, I've forgotten the name now. But they're a very right-wing Hindu party. And so the Sikhs feel unrest because of that, and feel that they're being targeted and all that sort of stuff. It's very, very stupid situation over there. But yeah, we've seen it before in this country where the politics of India get seen on the streets over here, and it's stupid, absolutely stupid.
Can I ask a question? Going back to the Trump Biden. No. Okay, I'll shut up.
No, go on, brother.
It's your podcast, brother. Ask whatever you want.
Stop saying no. No. Yeah, going back to the Biden Trump thing. The blue and the red, the two different, is it the Democrats and the Republicans? Do you think, I struggle a little bit, and this is probably a little bit of a deep out there question to ask. It's, to us, it would appear that Biden is not of his full faculties, correct?
100%.
That's how it appears. Yep. Now, anyone in their right frame of mind, I would believe, if I was running a particular business and my head of my business was someone that looked like they were making a complete fool of themselves, rightly or wrongly or whatever, you would do something about it. So I often sit there and I think, is this planned? Is it planned? Is it deliberate? And if it's deliberate, why would it be deliberate? Is it a case of, well, maybe they're willing to lose the election because of that? And why would they want that? Because it seems too bloody obvious to me. It's so obvious, it's ridiculous.
Well, this is the question I was asking for ages. Why are you leaving him in there when you know you will lose? But the only thing I can see with that, and again, if I think there's two separate things. You've got the Democrats who maybe are to let Trump in or the Republicans in because there's going to be a recession and that's who you'll blame. Like Biden has had the blame for when COVID hit and all that lot. Well, after Trump actually, but things went a bit peak tong and they said, well, look, it was from his administration that it all went peak tong. Well, it weren't. There was things going on before that. But then you've also got the financial institutions who don't want Trump in. And this is where we're getting a bit of the conflict. But Democrats-wise, I cannot understand why they would keep someone in there. So to me, it has to be deliberate. It has to be deliberate because I would be outing him straight away as a presidential candidate and putting someone stronger in there so that we win. Do you know what I mean? So I agree with you, and it is a question which needs to be answered. I don't know how you feel about that one, Camel.
I for a long time have suspected this might be them, somebody, I say them, I don't know who them is, but somebody deliberately leaving a breadcrumb trail. I've long suspected this, that if you were going to have a puppet, right, there's plenty of puppets to choose from. And you could have easily chosen one that can read from a teleprompter and not face the wrong way in the national anthem, walk up a flight of stairs without tripping over 3 times. You could have easily, there's plenty of people that you could bribe in this world, right? plenty of people will take cash in exchange for doing and saying whatever they're told to do and say. So to me, it seems very weird that we ended up in a situation where you've got someone that is undeniably not qualified or suitable for that role, right? When you can't read a teleprompter or walk up a set of stairs, then you're not really in a position to run a whole country, let alone the superpower of the world, right? So I have long suspected that this is potentially done as some kind of awakening tool or some kind of breadcrumb trail to be left in the public eye so that people can look up and go, okay, something is wrong here. Okay, maybe the way we look at the government isn't the way we should be looking at the government. Maybe this is not what it seems. Maybe these people really don't have the power and they are just front men. I've often wondered if that's the case, because like I said, it's very easy to find someone that will take a big cash pile in exchange for doing whatever you tell them to do, right? And they didn't have to be falling over when they walk or facing the wrong way during the national anthem. So the whole thing seemed a bit spurious to me. And I can't help but wonder if it is that breadcrumb trail, you know?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. You know, as you say, they could have had any puppet put in there, but at least the puppet would look stronger than what this guy does. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, this guy even introduced Putin onto the stage when it wasn't Putin, it was the Ukrainian president. It was like, what the hell are you doing? Do you know what I mean? So there's so many things, but why? Why are they doing? You know, if they want to lose, fucking hell, excuse my language, they're going about it the right way. But then why would they want to lose? As I say, does it mean they can blame everything on the Republicans when Trump comes into power? But it's not right. There's something majorly wrong with this. I mean, even the Democrats know this is not the right guy to be representing the country. They know, but it's being allowed.
Yeah, they must do. Do you remember when? Do you remember when we had Liz Truss as a PM for?
Yeah.
Do you remember how many weeks it was? 3 months, 12 weeks.
No, maybe less than that, even, brother.
Yeah, I think it might be. But let's say 12 months is the most, right? And the thing that I remember, I'll never forget Liz, right? Because I'll always feel a bit bad for this poor lady, right? And here's why. So they put in Liz, and then inflation gets really out of hand, and then she steps down. And for weeks, maybe even months afterwards, everywhere I went, everyone I bumped into, friends, family, strangers on a dog walk, strangers when I was out fishing or whatever, everyone was mad at Liz Truss. That was my entire reality. I couldn't get away from it. Everyone, hey, how's it going? Yeah, lovely weather we're having, typical English small talk. And then it was immediately followed by Liz Truss has ruined our economy, right? It's all her fault that we got inflation. And as somebody that understands inflation and the fact that any printing you do, one, needs velocity, and two, takes about 12 to 18 months to even manifest. I remember thinking the whole time, she couldn't have done any damage if she wanted to. She was only there 3 months or less, right? Even if she turned up on day one, printed 20 trillion, it wouldn't have worked its way through the system for a year, maybe 18 months. We wouldn't have even felt the effects for at least a year. But everywhere I went, everyone said, she ruined the economy. She's the reason my loaf of bread cost twice as much as it did 12 months ago, right? Blah, blah, blah. And I remember thinking to myself, this was really eye-opening because they put this poor lady in here. She probably didn't have a clue. As far as she was concerned, this was a nice promotion. Someone said, hey, come and be prime minister. Oh, yeah, I can't believe it. I can't believe my luck. Little did she know she'd been set up to be the fool woman, right? Yes. And then, like I say, the whole British public seemed to just never forgive her for ruining the economy and then being kicked out 3 months later. But like I said, that was really eye-opening for me because as somebody that understood inflation and knew that there's nothing you could possibly do in that short time period to actually have an immediate effect. Sure, she could have printed money and caused inflation 18 months into the future. But like I say, it was just really eye-opening because I'll never stop feeling sorry for this poor lady that somebody probably was like, hey, come and be PM. And she probably thought, oh, yeah, my dream come true. And then she was just set up as the fool guy, you know?
Well, I totally agree. I mean, Boris was in there. Boris was doing his stuff for a while. There was a lot of dissent in the House of Parliament and all that lot in Conservative, and Boris had made a few mistakes and he had to go. So he went and it was like, right, well, what do we do? You know, let's put her in. And you're absolutely right. But we see it all the time, brother. The effects of what the previous party, even when there's a change of party, the effects of what they have done go into the first couple of years of the new party that comes in. And then people could blame the new party for something that's the effects of the old party. So 4 years, it takes time for the new policies and new things to take effect. And if you change every 4 years, well, you're really not going to see the difference. Now, in saying that, Conservative have been in for what, the last 4 terms or whatever. So yes, a lot of the effects are due to Conservative policies, and inflation, all that, as you say, 18 months before you start seeing the results of printing money or anything else.
Yeah.
But I mean, Labour coming in now, I don't even know what to say. I think it's very, I mean, some of the things they've done straight away in the rental market, against landlords is going to be devastating to that market. Yeah, I just think we're in very, very weird and dangerous times in so many ways. You know, I don't want to put my own political view, as far as Conservative, Labour, or even Reform or anything else into this chat, but I think we're in for some tough times, and I don't think Labour are going to help us.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and again, it goes back to the whole Biden thing, right? It's like, why out of all the puppets are we choosing this one? And I still can't
All right.
think they're leaving a breadcrumb trail, right? I just can't help but think they're doing this on purpose.
Can I expand on that?
Yeah, please do.
What This is a little bit out there, but what if that this is part of a strategy, long-term strategy, to finally look at the whole Western political system, to actually say, sorry guys, this doesn't work anymore. It's not working. Obviously the peasants are getting a little bit savvy to it all. And is this an opportunity over time to sort of wangle in this bigger global government type setup down the line, where you've got so much incompetence and it's the perfect excuse to, hey guys, look, everything's collapsed, blah, blah, blah. We're here to your rescue, but we're going to look at it as more of a global thing rather than a continental country thing or whatever. Do you think that could quite possibly, I know it's out there a little bit, as maybe a possible thought process looking down the line?
I don't think it's as out there as you think, bruv.
Yeah.
This is what I said earlier, that they are breaking down the political system and they are breaking down democracy as it should be. So when you start trying to criminalize presidents, ex-presidents, or do things which changes the whole system, they are breaking down the system. So I don't think you're as far out as you may think you are. I think the whole system is being broken down, whether it be financial, political, educational. They're breaking it all down, and it's exactly what Camel was saying earlier. Break down the whole system, cause a load of fighting and disruption, and then come in as the saviors, and we've got a new system, a new thing, all to do with political, CBDCs, the rest of it. It's all one picture, and it's all one game that's being played out. But you have to totally destroy what you have before you can introduce something else that everyone's going to jump on and say, yeah, this will be our saving grace. So, yes, I agree.
Yeah, to be honest, CPM, I think you nailed it. When I was saying about the breadcrumb trail, I was kind of thinking about it in the context of they're sending a message to the people with eyes to see it, or with the ears to hear it, or you know what I mean? That's kind of the context I was thinking of it in. But I think your idea makes a lot more sense, right? Your question makes a lot more sense than mine does. It's like, rather than try to orchestrate some kind of mass awakening, is it more likely that what they're doing is trying to, like you said, prove that this whole system is broken, this whole system is failing, and we've ended up with a guy that can't read the teleprompter as the the president of the superpower of the globe, right? So yeah, I think, like Cobra said, I don't think it's way out there. I think you are probably a lot closer to reality than even my breadcrumb trail idea.
It kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Really?
I think it does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it, like, I mean, I've got a terrible mind for it all, but I always try to put myself, if I was going to be the most weirdest guy to manipulate half the planet, which is basically just having the infrastructure to do. If you can do it with your small family, I'm sure if you had the infrastructure there, which has been built over years and years and decades and God knows how many years, I'm sure they've got the infrastructure to be able to do that. And of course, there's no rush. What's the rush? They ain't going to rush, are they? And it's sort of, you know, a lot of people talk about the Great Reset just as a financial thing. But to me, it's just like, it's everything. Absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Totally
I totally
everything.
agree. It is everything. It is
Um,
everything.
and getting back to what I didn't mention earlier about the civil unrest, we've also now, all of a sudden, out of the blue, having CHAP systems go down in the banking system and a big IT outage across the world. All of a sudden, out of the blue,
Yeah,
coincidentally.
again, there was links to the Trump situation with these sort of cyber attacks or whatever they may be, and it was something I was saying quite a while ago now that cyber attacks, in one way or another, whether it be in a world war situation or whether it be in a financial institution situation, is one of the biggest weapons in the world right now. More dangerous to me, in my thinking, than even a nuclear bomb, because you can wipe out a country's infrastructure and everything by hitting the cyber, the internet and everything else, banking systems, and all that. You wipe that out, a country's crippled, absolutely crippled. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of that.
I 100% agree. I think the cyber attacks, the blackouts, I mean, they always attribute it to something minor. Like I think the most recent one was attributed to a bug in the Microsoft system, and that's what took
Mm.
out a bunch of stuff. But these are all, in my humble opinion, trial runs. These are all
I was gonna ask you that. Do you think these are tests?
Yeah, I do. I think they're
Yeah.
trial runs, warm ups. I think they have actually started about in I want to say 2019, 2020. I think that's when they first started to plunge certain areas into darkness. And I expect this thing to continue for a while, to be honest. I think that's going to continue. And I think they're in that process of putting feelers out there and trying to figure out exactly whatever it is they need to figure out. And eventually, I do believe that they will plunge the entire planet into darkness all simultaneously. That's what I think is ultimately
Uh,
coming. I think that's a while away. I'll be clear about that. I don't think that's this year or next year, even. I think that probably comes much later than that. But I do think at some point, we're probably going to be looking at a good chunk of this globe going dark for some length of time.
Brother, I agree. I mean, look, you know, even down to COVID, I do believe that COVID was a real thing which killed people. And as I say, I was in a situation that saw it on the ground firsthand and was seeing hundreds of dead bodies a day, literally. But I do believe that the lockdowns was part of a test as well of how much control they can put over people. So we've got that side of it where they were testing that. We've got the side of it with the cyber attacks where they're testing out what the effects would be on certain things and how bad it could get or how good it could get for their reasons. So these are all tests of things they can do. Now, remember, if there is a world power, let's say, I'm not going to say any particular side is part of it, but China, Russia, America are all big players at the moment who are in conflict. And America is very scared of China. China's very powerful in their technology and all that sort of stuff. So, as I say, I'm not saying any particular side is doing it at the moment because I don't know. But let's say America wants to test out that if they did a cyber attack on China, how would it affect them, or vice versa? I think you're right. I think we are in for some real dire stuff in the future. Some real dark, dark, dire stuff.
Yeah, but I will say this: I don't think it's in the next year or two. I think it comes after
Yeah.
that. I really do think it comes after that. It's funny you mentioned China because China play ultra long term strategy.
Yes, they do.
They're basically the only big power that does this. They think
Yeah.
50 to 100 years ahead at a time. And that's what makes them so scary, right? Because they are
Yes.
playing 4D chess for the very, very long term.
Yes. Well, it was like we said in one of our other conversations, why are they buying so much land in America around military sites? And as you say, they think way, way ahead. I think America more reactionary and more volatile in the way of something happens or they want to do something, they'll just bang it out and that's it, whether it be embargoes, restrictions or whatever. Whereas China will think long term. Even in this country, China are buying some major amounts of properties and stuff like that. So they're big players and they're very dangerous in what they do long term.
Yeah, you know, the other thing as well, they would love nothing more than to have the world reserve status and see the dollar fall.
Absolutely. But
They are hungry for that. They would absolutely love
yeah.
to be the superpower for sure.
But I do think the dollar is in big danger at the moment. I do think the BRICS nations and what they did with the petrodollar, and we discussed it before, was a big move. And we may not see the effects straight away, but I do think the dollar is going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, I used to think this a lot until I realized that the amount of gold the BRICS has equates to basically negligible amount. They're going to have to acquire so much more gold, like hundreds of times more than they've got at the moment, to actually challenge the dollar. For a long time, I subscribed to that idea as well, but only recently I watched some kind of it was like a Bitcoin podcast thing. I forget exactly what. Camels sent it to me. I'll try and dig it out and send it to you. But in that, it showed the total amount of gold that central banks have been buying, and then it also showed that relative to the amount of gold that is mined per year in aggregate, right, on the entire planet. And then it showed, compared to both of those metrics, the amount that BRICS has been accumulating, and it's barely a drop in the ocean. So I don't necessarily think that they're going to be able to challenge the dollar imminently. Maybe if we start to talk decades into the future, could they? Yes. And maybe if something happens to the dollar in the meantime, if there's a loss of confidence, if America decides to print 20 trillion or something, then yes, maybe we could start to see that. But as it stands right now, I think very, very long term, at least, before we start to see the impacts of that.
But brother, every time that America prints a new lot of money, it's double or triple amount of the last time. So, you know, for them to print 20 trillion is not going to be a big deal.
Well, yes and no. Because remember, as the world reserve currency, they get the privilege of being able to export their inflation everywhere else. So as soon as America prints, everywhere else has to print as well. Whether they want to or not, they have to, because otherwise the import-export currency exchange all gets messed up. So the moment America
prints, doesn't the other countries, they've been supporting it in a way by buying bonds off America, taking their debt for so long, but they're not doing that. They're getting rid of the bonds now. And also the other thing is China. We don't actually know how much gold they've got, not only in what they're buying, we can see what they're buying, but we don't know how much they hold in mining or anything like that, because they don't disclose that information.
It's true. And I mean, it's true of America as well, right? They've got, well, it's kind of the inverse in America. China keep their cards close to their chest, whereas in America, they say, we've got X amount of gold. Trust us. You can't come and have a look at it. You can't do an audit, but just trust us.
Are they holding as much as they're saying then?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? And China seems to do the inverse, which is they hold their cards close to their chest and go, oh, I don't know how much gold we've got, bro. You know?
Yeah. So a communist country is always going to be very, very hard to know exactly what they're doing or what they have. Yeah. And as I say, also with the bond market, the rest of the world is not buying American bonds like they were before. They're not taking on that debt.
No. So yeah, it's so complex. There's so much going on all at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh, go on then.
Camel?
Give us a
not Camel, CPM.
give us a bit of an idea. This decade, we're going to see some big changes.
Personally, I think so. Yeah. I think towards the end of this decade, we're going to see some major moves. Major moves.
Camel, same.
When you say changes, do you mean generally or?
Probably more that can upset the day-to-day of how we currently go about doing what we do. But anything that can upset that.
My base case is still that there is going to be massive printing in the next couple of years, and that is going to drive interest rates to double where they are now. So I think we're going to cut rates soon, and I think we're going to be slashing them very quickly. But then I think we're going to see more printing, even more than last time. That's going to cause even worse inflation, and then we're going to have to hike the rates up double where they are currently. So that's certainly going to be a big change. That's certainly going to impact a lot of people. If if you think you're struggling to service your mortgage at these higher rates and interest rates cut and new people will come onto the property ladder, that's one thing. But if suddenly the Fed funds rate goes to double digits, 10 or 12%, that's going to be a very, very different environment. Remember that inflation is compounded. So if a pre-pandemic loaf of bread cost £1 and now it costs £2, well, of course, it's not going to go down from £2. It's going to stay at £2 until they print. And then 18 or 12 months later, it's going to go up to £3 or £4 or £5. So there's definitely going to be those kind of monetary changes. I think that commodities are going to go through the roof for sure. And the asset holders, the people that hold the gold and possibly Bitcoin, silver, commodities in general, I think they're going to be repriced significantly higher, including the grains, wheats and corns and those kind of things, which of course translates to food price increases. So I do think it's important to be able to do what you can to have some money outside the system and in true stores of value. And then in terms of, I don't know, day-to-day living and political changes and those kind of things, I would imagine the world looks kind of unrecognizable post 2030. I know that's quite a few years away, but I would imagine we've got a completely new government system, a completely new, I would imagine they're going to have to redo taxes. I would imagine they're going to have to redo the debt structure somehow. So yeah, it's going to be, and then of course there's this other concept, which is that if we try to project what things are going to look like in the future, we're always going to be wrong, right? We can never really comprehend what the world's going to look like in 10 years time, and at least not with any accuracy. So yeah, and I haven't even mentioned AI. Of course, AI is going to play a big part, which is going to be even more complexity. Will that be really bad or not, or a no show? That's to be determined as well. But yeah, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's going to be a lot of changes. And one thing, brother, you said that end of the decade, that's a long time away. It's not, bruv. It's 5 years away. And the thing is, as you get older, and I'm sure CPM will agree, time seems to go quicker. 5 years is nothing. I look at 5 years' time and I think, well, that's a click of the fingers. So, we say that's quite a long time. It's really not. 5 years is not a long time to the end of the decade.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the context, right? Because if it's tough times, 5 years is a long time. Right.
Yeah, a
But I
long
mean,
time of suffering.
I can give you a quick story about my mom and Bitcoin, right? So going back to 2018, me and my brother said to my mom, "Oh, we should sort you out with zero point 0.1 Bitcoin," right? And at the time, I think it cost around £600 for zero point 0.1 Bitcoin. And we sort of said to my mum, "Here, mum, we got your zero point 0.1 Bitcoin. It's on this cold wallet. Just don't tell anyone." Okay, don't tell anyone. And she went, "Oh, okay, I got some Bitcoin," right? She forgets about it. And we're around there 2 Sundays ago for a family roast. And me and my brother were talking about Bitcoin. And we said, "Oh, yeah, mum, like you got Bitcoin. Do you remember that?" And she went, "Oh, I got some Bitcoin. I kind of remember that." She went, "Well, how much is it?" Because it was £600 back then. And so we looked at the price. We went, "Oh, it's about 5 grand, mum." And she almost fell, she almost fell out of her chair, right? She couldn't believe it.
Oh,
And anyway, this led to a whole heap of sort of jokes of, oh, the zero point 0.1 Bitcoin is the new one Bitcoin, because obviously back then you could buy a whole Bitcoin for 5 grand or whatever. Um, but anyway, the point of this story is, in the blink of an eye,
yeah.
we went from 600 quid for zero point 0.1 Bitcoin to about 5 grand for zero point 0.1 Bitcoin. So in that context, yeah, 5 years can fly by very, very quickly. But I think when we're focusing on the amount of cataclysm, sounds like a bit of a hyperbolic word, but the amount of potential tough times that could be coming over the next few years, I think by the time we get to, let's say, 2035, we'll look back on this 5 year blip as nothing, right? As you do.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about potentially a global recession, some whole debt spiral issues, a whole heap of inflation, and a bunch of other hard times, then you know that makes me think that this next 5 years is it's quite far away, right? Because we've first got to get through the next 1 and 2 and then 3 years. So I think it all depends on the context. I do think these times are going to be kind of rough, but of course, by the time we get to 2030 something, then we will look back at this like, oh, where did that time go, right? As we always do.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point.
But yeah, you are right. In the scheme of things, 5 years, nothing, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing.
I think that podcast you was referring to was hyperinflation is coming. The US dollar endgame, hyperinflation is coming with the Peruvian bull. And I think that was the What is Money podcast. They were talking about that.
Let me check.
I'm sure it was. And I think I sent it to you because I remembered them talking about the gold all around the world. Really interesting.
That doesn't sound familiar. Wait a sec.
No.
You did send me that. I do remember you sending me that, but I don't
Yeah.
think that's the one I was referring
They were
to.
talking, yeah, it's been interesting because the guys were talking about that on that one, but it's irrelevant anyway. What is really fascinating when you actually look at cyber attacks, blackouts. I was sitting there with my wife, I think it was yesterday or the day before, just having tea, dinner. And I said, oh my God, do you realize if we had no energy, no electricity, no gas, no fuel, no internet, no telephones, how blind we would become?
Yep.
Totally blind. And you sit there and you think, oh, I can't even ring my daughter. I can't even ring my son. I don't know how anyone is because communication's gone, other than what you can do, how far you can walk, probably in daylight hours. That's scary. It's a really scary thought and a powerful tool to knock the peasants into some sort of corner against the wall to say, we've got a solution here for you guys.
Mm.
Isn't it
Yeah.
scary?
Yeah.
Yep.
Just before I respond, that the podcast I was talking about is from the channel What Bitcoin Did, and it's called
Oh, right. Yeah, I know.
Bitcoin versus the US debt bomb with Matthew. I can't
Oh, I know
pronounce
the
his
one.
last
Yeah,
name.
yeah,
Menzinski's. I would highly recommend that, by the way. Absolutely phenomenal.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, to go back to what you were saying about preparedness, perhaps, right? If you want to try to figure out whether or not you can manage a global blackout, which is probably the worst case scenario, right? We're talking global blackout, no, your phone, all of a sudden the power goes out, your phone doesn't work, you've got no internet access, and you realize after 24 hours it's not coming back, right? And at this point in time, you don't know how long it's going to stay off. If you want to know how prepared you are, okay, go into your fuse box in your house and cut the power, okay, and then just stay there and see how long you can last before you realize, oh, I don't have any food, I don't have enough water, I don't have enough candles, I don't have enough firewood, whatever it is, right? And this is one of the best ways to be prepared. Cut the power off to your house and figure out what you're missing. That will very quickly identify your weak points. So that's one way to deal with it. And CPM, we were on the phone, I think last week perhaps, or mid this week.
Yeah,
And I was saying about the protocol for in case this happens, right?
yeah, yeah.
If you're in this space and you're aware that this stuff is a possibility, you already have a massive head start. But let's assume right now, boom, there goes the power, right? Complete blackout. You pick up your phone. Oh, no signal, right? No internet, no nothing. What am I going to do, right? When this actually happens, it's probably prudent to have a protocol, right? And I mean this by having it ahead of time. So for me and my family know that if everything goes completely out of if the phone cuts off, the power goes, there's no internet, blah blah blah. The first thing in our protocol is I have to go and get my wife from work, assuming she's at the hospital, right? And when we had the most recent blackout and cyber attack thing, my wife was texting me to say, "Oh, have you seen this? Have you seen this, Camel? Wow, wow, wow!" And I would say, "Well, you know, it's not the real deal because I haven't come to get you, right? You know, it
Mm,
doesn't matter because
mm.
I haven't kicked the door down and taken you out of the building yet." So the point is, it might sound absurd, it might sound a bit like an overreaction, but if you've got kids that are an hour away, right? Think about it like this. If everything goes out all at the same time, you no longer have facility to phone them or text them, right? You can't iMessage them or email them or any of that. Okay. They're just over there, maybe hours and hours away from the country. But you can have a conversation now ahead of time to say, hey, by the way, let's establish what we're going to do if everything cuts out. Because for the people that are listening, you've got about a 2 hour head start before everyone else, right? For the first 2 hours, everyone's going to be sitting around, la, 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 waiting for the power to come back on. Oh, well, my phone signal will come back in 2 hours, right? But it's in that 2 hours that the people that are listening to this can react. It's in that 2 hours that people can execute on a protocol or a set of things, such as, oh, well, all the electricity in our phones are dead. I can't contact my dad. Well, it's good because he told me this would happen a few years ago, and we know to go immediately to X, Y, or Z location, right? You can get a head start on everyone else because, like I said, everyone else is going to be sat around for 2 hours twiddling their thumbs, waiting for the internet to come back, right? So I do think it's probably prudent to have a conversation with your family, figure out who lives where, and figure out where some kind of mutual meeting point is. And you can put these protocols in place now so that you can sleep easy at night, not having to worry about, oh, well, how am I going to contact my daughter who lives 2 hours away, right? So I would suggest that number one, if you want to be prepared, like I said, switch off the fuse box in your house and then try and stay there in it for a week with your missus, right? And pretty quickly you'll realize, oh, wait, we don't have that. We don't have this, or we're missing this. And then, of course, you can top up on those things that you're missing. And the second thing is speak to your family, let them know in the event that all the power should go out and suddenly your phones and your internet doesn't work, well, have some place that you can meet and rendezvous and figure it out from there, and have a plan B as well. Probably that won't hurt. And then worst case scenario, the power goes out, you meet at your rendezvous point and the power comes back and you'll go, okay, false alarm and go back to your original locations. Right. But if you are listening, if you're aware of this stuff, then it is worth thinking about this. It is worth having some level of preparedness. It is worth having some kind of protocol in place so that when the power goes out, you can be amongst the first people to react. Because like I said, everyone else is going to be sat around twiddling their thumbs for the first couple of hours. It's going to take them a while to work out that the power's not coming back.
I think that's actually a very, very, very good bit of advice there. I've never thought of it like that, to be honest. If the power went out now, you're exactly right. I'd be sitting there going, "Oh shit, we've got a power cut," and I wouldn't think anything else. But yes, organise things with your family so they know what to do if that situation happens. The thing is, if it's gone for a long term, if it's gone like for a period of months or whatever, I think we're going to have a lot more problems in the end, because it's not just turning off your electricity in the house. There's going to be rioting. There's going to be people raiding supermarkets for food and all that lot. And so defensively as well, you've got to be prepared on where you're going to stay, how you're going to secure that place, property, whatever it may be, whether it's your house or anywhere else. And sad to say that, you are going to have to defend your property and everything you've got, because people are going to be looting, raiding. Obviously, that depends on how long it goes on for. But yeah, I mean, it could turn into a very bad situation. But I think you're right. Preliminary thing is to get your family together and make sure they all know what to do if something like that happens. I think that's absolutely brilliant advice. Long term, I think we've got to think deeper onto bigger things as well. You know what I mean? Of protecting yourselves and your family and getting food. Because your fridges and your freezers are gone and everything's gone. And, can you even hunt? You know what I mean? If it goes that far.
Yeah. And I mean, it's so individualized, right? For example, if it's a lot easier if your family is all within half an hour away, right? Because that could even be walked. So you don't have to worry about transport or getting stuck on any of the motorways or anything like that. If you live in the middle of a city and your nearest relatives are 6 hours drive away, right? Then maybe meeting up with your family is not even the best possible outcome. Maybe having some kind of shelter in place protocol in case of the riots and stuff are really, really bad. You're right as well. It depends on like how high the footfall your area that you live in is, because people will come knocking and you might have to be forced to defend your property if you live in a high footfall area, right? I mean, after about 72 hours of no power, no internet, no phone, people are going to realize the police ain't coming, right?
Yeah, we've got to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, they're going to start to realize, and panic's really going to set in after 72 hours. People are going to realize, oh, okay, like this is dog eat dog now, right? We're in that Mad Max situation. And, if you live in the country and you're surrounded by acres and no one really knows your property even exists or whatever else, then you can kind of pretty, what's the word? Just, you can sit back and put your feet up knowing that at least you took some steps to put some food and water in, and you can sit there and wait for the thing to blow over, right? Whereas if you live in a high-rise block of flats, then it's going to be a lot tougher, right? You're going to have to think a lot harder about where you're going to go and how soon you're going to react, those kind of things.
And a lot of Americans prep for this. They prep for these sort of things. They're literally called preppers.
Yeah.
Food storage, water storage, tin foods, all that. They have little bunkers with it.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea, really.
I mean, in an ideal world, if you're an 8-figure guy, you should have a bunker by now. If you're an 8-figure guy and you don't have a bunker, then you're behind the curve. I don't personally like the idea of hiding in a bunker. I don't like the idea of dragging my wife and dog into an underground bunker and being like, okay, this is us now. We're going to hide. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to be Rambo, Mad Maxing out there either and trying to, I don't want that either. But I don't like the idea of hunkering down in a bunker or anything like that. But I mean, it's all relative, depending on where you live, depending on how far away your family are, depending on what kind of financial facility you have. If you don't have a lot of disposable income, then obviously stocking up a whole pantry full of 20 years worth of dried, powdered military, shelf life foods, that's not for you. But anyone could go down and buy a few tins of hot dogs and fruit and whatever else, tin potatoes, right? And that's better than nothing, for sure. That's better than nothing. The more time you can spend waiting for the thing to blow over, the better. Like I say, if nothing else, it would be for your own peace of mind and sanity, good to have an agreement with your family and the friends and your loved ones ahead of time. That it's pretty simple, right? If there's a blackout somewhere in the world, it doesn't matter, right? But if your phone, your internet, and the power goes all at the same time, then assume the worst, have a rendezvous point, or have at least have the peace of mind that your family know and are expecting this to happen. And even if they're not accessible to you, if they're not half an hour to an hour away, if they're further than that, then at least you can say, well, they knew this was coming, they know what to do, and you can have peace of mind to know that they're probably going to be okay for the foreseeable future. And I don't like the whole doomsday prepper stuff and living in fear, and I'm not championing a zombie apocalypse or anything like that, but I do think that just a quick 20-minute conversation with your loved ones could probably save you an awful lot of mental fretting,
Yeah, and you're right about something else as well, though, Ruff. Look, you're right. We don't want to talk about zombie apocalypse and Mad Max situations and all that lot. But you're right. If it all went down, it would literally take a matter of days before there was rioting and chaos out there.
Yeah,
it would, because people will panic. Look at toilet roll situation.
Yeah,
I'm serious though, brother. Right, just a little thing like things got a bit hard in the supermarkets for a little while because trucks were a bit mucked up or whatever it was, and people were going mad for toilet roll. Well, can you imagine if everything went down? How many days, and I mean days, not weeks, how many days would it be before people panic and the supermarkets will be closed? There's no electric, there's no gas, there's no nothing, there's no trucks arriving with new supplies, nothing. People are going to panic within a matter of days. And it will happen like that. If that happens, it will happen. So yes, you do have to be prepared. And yes, we're not hopefully not talking about a Mad Max situation and going around killing people and surviving like that. But you're talking about finances as well. Your banks aren't going to be churning out any money. No one's going to give a damn about money because you can't go to a shop and buy anything.
Absolutely,
you're going to have to survive.
Yep.
So yeah, absolutely right. If you can stock up a little bit and survive a week, 2 weeks, hopefully it would end by that. But if it doesn't, well, you've got to think on another level.
Yep. And I think the more you think about it now, and this is not me saying, you need to be scared, you need to be worried, you need to be prepared. No. That's not what it is. But just the more you think about it now, the less you have to think about it if it is to occur in the future, right?
Absolutely right. I agree.
And like I said, I really think the family thing is important because you get great peace of mind knowing that from a 20-minute conversation, like for example, for my wife, like I said earlier, like she texts me, oh, there's blackouts, there's cyber attacks. And I said, look, I haven't picked you up from the building, so you ain't got to worry, right? But I promise you, I promise you right now, that the day that my phone, the electric and everything goes out all at once, I will be straight in the car with my dog, going to get my wife. She'll have no say. I'll be taking her out the building and we'll be off home because that's my priority. That's my priority number one. I want to protect my wife. And, I also know that my mom and my brothers, I know that they're aware that if this situation happens, they understand where to go. They understand what to expect. And I can count on them absolutely that even if they think I'm a bit mental, even if they think this is no chance of this happening, they at least respect that I've told them what to do if this should occur, and they know what to do. And therefore, even if I can't get to them for whatever reason, I can rest assured knowing that they know what to do. And it gives me, it's one less thing on my mind to worry about, right? I have more of a free mind to deal with whatever's going on at the time. So I think anyone can have one of these conversations with their family or loved ones in 20 minutes or less. And that's all you have to do. Have a gentleman's agreement. Okay. If this happens, we'll do this.
Do this. Yeah. I take my hat off to you for even thinking on that level. I really do. Because I hadn't.
Yeah. But it's worth doing, it's worth doing. Yeah. And particularly if you've got a bunch of security type big boys and you live in a rough area or whatever, having those guys grouped together would certainly, that would be a beneficial thing, right? And
well, the thing is, I always go on about cyber attacks. I've said it to CPM many times when we were talking about Bitcoin in the beginning about cyber attacks, and it's a real reality of a threat and a big one. And yet I haven't fought on this level. So yeah, hats off.
Thanks, brother. But yeah, I mean, anyone could do it, right? You just got to have a 20-minute conversation over a roast dinner, and and that's that. But like I said,
supper.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's got to be worth doing because otherwise you're going to be like, oh, my daughter's 6 hours away. I can't phone her. She doesn't know. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to be doing that. You want to.
Well, there's no harm in that conversation. And as you say, you'll have to jump on everyone by a good 2-3 hours because people will think it will be coming back on, and you'll have the jump on them. So absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. So worth thinking about, I think. CPM, you dead?
I think he's had a blackout.
I was thinking, why did I say that? Why don't I even mention about that? Wow. This is what amazes me about these conversations. I didn't know we'd end up here. Well, I don't think any of us knew we'd end up at
No,
No,
that point at all.
love it.
It's really interesting. Really, really interesting. Yeah, I don't know what to say actually, because my mind's just been sitting there because you kind of don't. The interesting thing, guys, we've all relatively been around for a little while now, and you kind of probably when I was in my 20s, this was such a film, Mad Max.
Yep.
yeah,
It was just a film. It was pure fiction. It was pure, oh yeah, that's really cool. Great bit of entertainment for 2 hours. Talk about with your mates at a pub. What a great film, great action. Look at all the effects. Da, 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 da. And like, here I am sitting there, sort of nearly 60, 40 odd years later, thinking, bloody hell, this could happen.
mm,
And you almost go through a denial phase through your mind because you kind of, I never forget, once you know, you can't not know, but you can choose not to know, but you don't know, but you do know, if that makes sense. It's so difficult. It really is. It starts to screw around with your mind, which brings, and I would just like to say that we're not a doomsday channel. We're really not. It's just a
no,
fascinating,
no.
fascinating, fascinating subject that makes us all just sit and think about the possibility of anything that can happen. And I believe we're in a timeline that it is what it is. And we're at a stage where it possibly might not be fiction. So to be aware and to talk about it is a great thing. It's not going to harm anyone, is it?
No.
Not going to harm anyone at all. Maybe we need to talk about prepping a little bit more. I don't know. Maybe not. I want to know where Camels postcode is, so I can just go down there, pick up everyone, and just steam down there. And Cobra, you can come protect us all.
Wicked, sounds good. Sounds good. I'll talk to my boys
Yeah,
and I'll
yeah.
tell them if anything ever happens, this is the address you go to. We'll all be there. We'll all take care of each other and let the world go to pot.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, the funny side of that, is that's a serious way of building the community if the shit hits the fan, isn't it?
Yep.
For sure. Anyway, that brings me back to probably the title of this podcast was the mindset and mentality of investing. Now, going back to what we all love to do, and that's do a bit of investing. And just looking back at the last 45 minutes of conversation, God, this screws with your mind. Totally screws with your mind. How on earth does anybody out there that's just getting into this space get their head around everything that's going on? What I know we don't like doing advice, but if I could put you sort of into someone's shoes that maybe were just starting off but with a bit of good knowledge, how do you get around it? How do you keep your mindset sane and when you're trying to invest? Because at the end of the day, none of this might not happen, and you still want to go down your investment journey and make the best decisions. What do you think?
Can I let Cobra go
Sorry.
first?
Yeah,
Can
of
I let
course.
Cobra
Yeah,
go
sure.
first? While I go for it, I'm gonna pop to the bathroom.
Okay.
Right. I mean, my way of thinking on this is look, you can't live your life in fear of what could happen. What will happen will happen. Now, to me, as CPM more than anyone, gold is my thing. And it's a hard asset that you're holding. Silver as well. So if you can't afford gold, silver as well. These are hard assets and they're definitely a thing to hold on to. And I think you should carry on with that if that is your thing. Now, as far as stocks and shares go and all that lot, again, you can't live your life by fear. And if you understand those markets, which I don't, I have to be very clear on that, then carry on in your investments if you understand it and you know what you're doing. And, as they raise up, pull out money when you do and they drop and so on. Bitcoin is a really funny one for me because I like it. You introduced me to it, CPM, and I like Bitcoin. But I have to be very honest with that last little bit where it dropped. I pulled out my initial investment. I've left a little bit in there and I may add to it again. And, you know, I've seen it. It dropped down. The fear was there for me. Not fear because I needed that money, but fear because I don't want to lose my money as such. So I pulled it out and I kept a little bit. And now it's going back up again. It's shooting back up, and I'll put a little bit in and so on. But for me, you know, as I say, number one, don't live your life in fear. Do what you're going to do. But number two, the safest assets for me are physically held gold and silver. And for me personally, I can't get away from that. That is the way I feel. That is the way I think. And that is the way I'll carry on. I can't advise anyone on stocks and shares and Bitcoin because, one, I don't know enough. And two, it's a little thing for me to play with. But I think, again, I do think these cyber attacks are a big thing. And I think that could affect those sort of sides. So gold and silver for me is always the way forward.
Yeah, I get that. But I was probably wanting to dig more into our mindset going through these journeys and how we keep on top of keeping a good solid mindset to keep our investment strategy going, even through turmoil. And that can apply to anything. And that mentality effect that it has on us, like what you were saying about you was a bit unsure. That was obviously affecting your mindset
Yes,
and the
yes,
mentality
yes,
and the mentality of the investment. So that was, you know, can you talk to us a little bit more what was going through your head at the time? So people can understand that it isn't just them. It could be anybody, you know.
Look, people who have been in Bitcoin from the beginning or quite early on, they have seen the cycles and they understand it. And so they have less fear than someone like myself who got into it maybe, I don't know what it was, 7-8 months ago, maybe a little longer, I can't remember. So with me, Bitcoin, for instance, I got it and it was going up constantly and it was doing really well. And I kept putting more and more into it. And that was lovely. Now, then a couple of weeks ago, I was in Florida. And I was sitting there one night and I looked at my Bitcoin and it was dropping at a phenomenal rate. I mean, it was by the second I could see it going down, 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 down. I was like, what the hell is going on? And that fear really hit into me that, look, my initial investment, I mean, let's say, for instance, that I had initially put in 10 grand and I was looking at 16 grand sitting there, for instance, as in with the profit I'd made on it. And I could see it dropping 15 grand, 14 grand, 13 grand. And I thought, well, look, I am not going to risk losing my 10 grand initial investment. So if I pull it out now, the 10 grand, I've still got 3 grand left, say, I'm all right with that. You know, you see, when you've got money in it, your mind is about that money you've put in it and the fear of losing that. The profit didn't matter to me. So it was pull out your investment and then the 2-3 grand that's left, leave it in there and that can play. And if it goes to zero, which it won't, I'm not saying that, but if it goes to zero, I haven't lost anything. And if it goes up again, all right, I gain on that. But it was a real sort of, and I say, it's not a fear of, oh, I'm going to be without money because I'm okay, luckily. I'm blessed to be okay. But I still don't want to waste my money or lose my money. And when I watched that dropping, literally watching it on my phone dropping, I thought, no, I'm out. And it came to a point where I just pulled it out. And this is the truth, I'll be very, very honest. I was desperately trying to quickly type in the numbers to get it out. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't a thing of, oh, yeah, okay, I'll pull it. It was a bit of panic. There was real panic there. Yep. Now, as I say, CPM, yourself, and Camel have been in it a while, and so you don't have that panic. But for someone new, it taught me something that, look, if you're looking into it and you have real trust in something, you don't feel like that. Gold, I've seen gold drop. Even recently, it was a few days ago, it was up in the 1900s, and now it's down to 1856 or 1860, something like that. It doesn't bother me at all because I have pure faith in gold. I know how gold works. I've known it for many years. I trust it. And that's the same with people who have been in Bitcoin a while and understand the cycles. They know it, they trust it, and they know how it's going to go. I wasn't at that level. I wasn't at that level in my mind. So for me, I see it dropping like that and I'm like, I'm out, I'm done. But not all out, because I do like it and I do trust it to a certain extent. So it's like, leave the profit, pull out your initial investment, and now I don't worry about it at all. You know, I have no thing, I don't care whether it goes up or down. You know, I've got a few grand in it and that's fine. So it was it was real panic. But as I say, it's not panic necessarily because I'm skint and I need that money. Just look, this is my investment. It's fucking dropping like a rock. I'm out. So yeah, very weird thing, but it taught me something. It was, that's my first big drop sort of thing, and it wasn't even that big really.
Yeah.
But it taught me something, which was good. So, it's not always about panicking. It's having faith in what you're investing in. And I obviously didn't have enough faith to hold on. If I had held on, my money would be back up now. Do you know what I mean? But it hasn't upset me. I don't look at it as, oh my God, I pulled it out and I could have had that much. It doesn't, I don't look at it like that at all. For me, at that time, it was the right move, because I now feel more secure in what I've got in Bitcoin, and I've learned something through that little process there.
Bitcoin volatility is for psychopaths. Yeah, the volatility is unlike any other asset class. And
Oh,
I'll give you an example, actually. I saw a comment in one of my YouTube videos not too long ago where I was saying, oh, the stock market, if it has a blow off top and then crashes, we could be looking at, at least 30% minimum decline. And somebody wrote in the comments like 30%, like who cares, right? And I could tell that this is a person that has only ever been in crypto, because 30% declines are not nothing, right? But if in the crypto world, I see it in both directions as well, right? So you see people, for example, in the member section, I might like take a long on some stock or whatever, and it goes up 30%. Or most recently, actually, we took Newmont Mining um, as a gold position, and I closed that trade for 22%. And I could see people commenting like 22%, like, or I don't even get out of bed for less than 400%, right? And I was thinking like, this is such a cryptocurrency mentality. Like those sorts of gains are not the normal, right? They're not the normal at all. And yeah, the volatility of Bitcoin is insane, absolutely insane. And you do get these 20, 30+% corrections in a bull market. And that will shake you out if you're not used to it. And as somebody that is, for example, for you pay a lot of attention to the gold and the silver prices, right? Where if that thing drops 6%, you'd be thinking, whoa, 6%, that's a massive move for gold. But it's just a function of market cap, because gold's market cap is roughly 10 plus times the size of Bitcoin's. So a 6% move in gold is the equivalent to 60% in Bitcoin. And it's just a function of market cap, really. But over time, you do learn to kind of weather the volatility. Now that you've cheated your bags, so to speak, on this current move, if you see these moves in future, you will be more emotionally equipped to kind of deal with it or whatever. And there's nothing wrong as well. I'm not one of these people, don't get me wrong, I'm not one of these people that says diamond hand it, never selling your Bitcoin. I don't believe in that at all, because as I often say, if you miss the top of the last cycle by 35% and then you miss the bottom by 35%, you could have still doubled your bags by selling your Bitcoin and buying it back lower. So I'm by no means the kind of person that says you never sell, you diamond hand it till the end. I don't think that's the case, especially because most people can't accumulate a whole Bitcoin through DCAing anyway. So if you
I
want
watched your video on, was it your video or someone else's, about most people won't be able to get a Bitcoin now and all that sort of stuff by DCing, like you say. And yes, I agree. But for me now, even if I chuck in like I was before, I've learned something from this move that happened. Yes, I did panic. And as I say, I'm happy with that I panicked and I pulled out my investment. I'm all right with that. I don't feel bad about that at all. But I will be a bit more stable when the next time it happens. And I'm happy to still chuck in 500 here and there and build it up again. I may not build up to what I had before because the price may change and make it harder. But, it was a learning curve for me. And I'm new in the game of Bitcoin. And you and CPM have got a lot more experience and weathered it through a lot better than I did.
Yeah, but to be fair, mate, like that one way of looking at it is that way, and another way of looking at it is at least you pulled the trigger, right?
Yeah.
Whether that was the right or the wrong decision at the time is neither here nor there, because the reality is a lot of people just have this attitude of I'm never selling. I'm never selling, I'm diamond handing. And that works for a while up until we get to the top of Bitcoin or whatever the cryptocurrency is. And then very quickly, that same attitude of I'm never selling turns into, well, I had life-changing money made,
Yeah,
but I'm never selling. And then the thing crashes 80, 90, 95, even 99%. And suddenly that life-changing money these people had is back to, well, this entire trip, this entire
yeah,
journey, this entire investment session amounted to nothing, right? So at some point you've got to sell. And I always say that the litmus test for this is how well are you going to sleep at night? If
yes.
if you're going to lose sleep because you're holding Bitcoin, then lighten up your position, right? Take your initial out, sell some,
That's what I
whatever.
did.
But
Yeah,
if you sleep like a baby at night and you have no problem whether the thing dips 20 or 40 or 60%, if you don't care, then it's okay, right? That's
yeah,
fine too. But everyone has to kind of think to themselves, am I going to lose sleep over this? And if you are, then you've got too much size, you've got too much risk, you've got too much whatever. And you know, don't beat yourself up for selling, because you have to do what's right for you. And if you can sleep better now, knowing that you're taking your initial out and you're letting the rest ride, that's absolutely fine. And like I say, a lot of people fall into this trap of I'm never selling, and that works well. That works well for a while up until the top comes in. And then at the top or close to the top, they've made life-changing money. They could potentially buy a whole house, or pay their mortgage off, or whatever else, or be in a just generally better position financially. And instead, they go, I'm never selling. And then next thing you know, a year goes past, they're down 80% on what they were, and they're really no better off for it. So,
yeah,
like I said a million times, I'm not one of these people that thinks you should never sell. I think that selling somewhere close to the top is good, and buying back somewhere close to the bottom is enough for most people to actually significantly increase their stack over time. But like I said,
yeah.
if
I
you
think I don't beat myself up over it, but I do take it as a learning lesson, because I bought when it was going down. Sorry, I sold when it was going down through panic. So yes, you're right. If I waited and it went to the top and then I sold, that's a good move. If you're selling when it is dropping because of fear, then that's not necessarily a good move. But I feel a lot better, like you said. I feel a lot better.
but to the
I've got my
same
initial investment out and I'm good.
But if you imagine now that the price squeezes up to whatever the number is, 150, 200K, right, and then crashes
Yeah,
30%, somebody like you would go, oh, I'm panicking, I'm selling, right? Boom, done.
yeah,
But for the other people that go, no, diamond hands, right? Well, at least you got out after a 20, 30% correction. Whereas those diamond hand people are going to hold this thing all the way down back to minus 85%. And then
yeah.
they're not going to have anything to show for it. Nothing
And I
whatsoever.
haven't made a loss. I'm still in profit.
Okay, then you're
And
winning,
now
right?
what's riding on Bitcoin now is free money.
Yeah. So to each their own, and yeah, don't beat yourself up for selling. And the volatility for Bitcoin, like I said earlier, it really is for psychopaths. Like, it's not normal to watch something drop 30% and then sit back and go, it's fine, buy the dip, bro. Like, if a stock, if a stock or gold dropped 30%, you'd be thinking, what on earth has happened, right? Like,
Yeah.
how could this have possibly, like, this wasn't part of the plan. It's only Bitcoin that can have these 30 or 40% shakeouts and have everyone going, it's fine, buy the dip. But like I said, that only works during a bull market. At some point, the top will come in, and those same people will go, yeah, buy the dip, buy the dip, hold. And the reality is that they should have taken profit. So,
Whereas when do you fire the gun? That's the thing, isn't it? Wait till the whites of their eyes. You wait too long, you're dead.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
CPM.
I think we're going high. CPMs.
I'm listening.
No, I think we're going higher, and I think we're going a lot higher than people think we are. But
Yeah.
but who
Yeah.
knows, right? Who knows? It's a market. Anything and everything is on the table at all times.
Yeah.
But whether it goes up or down, you've still got to have a good mindset and that mentality to make those decisions that you think are right for you. And what I admire about what Cobra did there is that he put his own mentality first.
Yep.
And that is far and above any influencer out there. Anyone that thinks they know what they're talking about, anyone that does know what they're talking about, it comes down to an individual thing
Yeah.
where, and I love your analogy of you can't sleep at night because you're worrying, oh, damn, I should have sold it. I
Yeah.
never should have sold it. It's going to screw you. I'm there. I'm no different. And I think probably most people are to a degree. So it's fantastic. But I would like to ask over a question. Going forward, okay, what would you say that possibly could have helped you manage that situation better? Or do you think that possibly there wasn't anything that you could have possibly pre-done to manage that?
Look, I think it's understanding the cycles of Bitcoin better and understanding Bitcoin better and understanding what affects it and what it does. Now, again, as I say, where I was new into the game, I hadn't seen a drop like that where you're literally looking at your phone and it is dropping thousands by the second. It's like that was incredible. And so that has taught me something, as I say. Now, if I put a little bit in again, as long as I never lose my investment, I'm okay. Look, I've made a very small profit, very small. And I know the long-term game is to make a bigger profit. So, yes, I pulled out early in a way, but I feel secure in myself. Now, later on, as I say, I'll put a bit in here and there, keep going again. And as long as I'm always making a bit of profit, I'm not greedy, right? So, yes, obviously the aim is that Bitcoin goes to 250,000, 500,000, a million, and whatever I've put in as tripled, quadrupled, 5x, 10x, whatever it is. But as long as, for me personally, as long as I never lose money, I'm all right with that. If I only make 2 grand, 3 grand, that's still 3 grand I didn't have. If I make 10 grand, 20 grand, absolutely brilliant. But maybe I'll be a bit stronger next time there's a drop if I understand the cycle a bit better. So I think it will toughen me up a bit to understand things. And I will try and learn to buy when it's low and to sell when it's high, rather than sell while it's dropping. And again, it's about having faith in Bitcoin like I have faith in gold. I have pure, unwavered faith in gold. And I've seen drops in gold and I've seen gold going up, but eventually gold continues to go up overall. And so if I have the same mentality, or if I feel comfortable enough to have the same mentality about Bitcoin, then I will get more settled in my reaction, shall we say.
And could I ask you the difference when you use faith in gold? What has actually produced for you to have that conviction of to say I have faith in gold? What's given you that conviction?
So gold has been around a lot longer than Bitcoin.
For you personally?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
Oh,
I don't want to get into the, what's one thing better than all that all sort of stuff. I was
no,
just
no, no. I'm
just
telling you how I
purely
feel and why I
just
feel like
purely
that.
where you're convict what's built that conviction for you? Is it,
Right. Which is what I'm explaining, that gold has been around for a lot longer than Bitcoin. And because of that, I like, again, being Indian, we love our gold, and I was taught from a young age always buy gold, and so I have seen it going up constantly year over year over year. And yeah, a little dip here and a little dip there, but it consistently goes up. To me, Bitcoin was very new, and so I can't see that as clearly as I can see gold. And because with gold, even from a young age, and I'm talking about 15, 16, or even younger, I was given presents of like a gold ring and all that lot. And I was told it's worth, I don't know, let's say a couple of £100 at that time. And now it's worth, a grand and a half. So I can see that development sitting on my finger there. And so I'm used to that. And I've been brought up with that with gold. And so that's why I'm so settled with gold. It's been in my life from a young age. And I know year on year it will go up. And it may not even be inflation and all the rest of it. We know all that, but it is solid. It's been proven for me to be solid. Bitcoin for me was a very new thing. And when I started 8 months ago, whatever it was, I knew zero about it. And it was actually you who made me look into it. And I'm convinced that it's a good thing, but I don't have enough knowledge on the cycles and how they work to understand the ups and downs of it. So that's why gold for me is easy. It's very easy for me to have faith in it.
Yeah, so trying to pull that information from what you just said. So it's basically to produce faith in whatever we do, and it doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin, stocks and shares, and Camel, you can come in because you're so pro in this in a minute. It's all about education,
Yeah,
produces belief, and
yeah,
it's pretty critical for us to sort of know what we're doing. And that can only be done over a period of time, because it sounds like you've been around gold, and it makes so much sense. I mean, I know your story anyway, but
Yeah,
it's really good for people to hear. It is your belief is grounded through a very long term of education, growing up and being around, which has built that solid belief in an asset that you're very comfortable with. It's very powerful.
exactly that. It's my whole life has been around gold,
Mm,
whereas my whole life has not been around stocks or shares and Bitcoin.
yeah,
And so gold, I know, I trust it. I'm all right with it.
yeah,
And other people have been with Bitcoin since day one,
yeah,
and they have the same opinion of Bitcoin as I do of gold
yeah,
because they understand it.
yeah.
You know,
So that goes a long way to mindset and mentality, then, doesn't it? Education.
absolutely, absolutely.
And we can now ask a professional his opinion. Camel,
Professional.
you are, but you must have experienced that. The mindset game, the mentality game. You're doing it for a living. You're providing for your family, for you. Um, I'm sure. I'm sure you've had some massive ups and downs. Maybe you
I
haven't. I
certainly
don't know,
have,
but
yeah.
yeah. How do you
Yeah.
deal with it?
I mean, I think it's understanding that each asset behaves differently is important, right? So if I saw a 2% pullback on gold, I'd be thinking, okay. And if I saw a 6% pullback on gold, I'd be thinking, wow, okay, that's 6%. Like, that's a lot. But in Bitcoin, it does 6% in a daily candle. It doesn't care, right? It doesn't mean anything. And for Bitcoin to do minus 30% over a week, you'd be thinking, okay, this is Bitcoin doing Bitcoin things. And then if I was holding a stock that went down 30% in a week, I'd be thinking, whoa, 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 like I've got this very, very wrong, right? So I think, first of all, it's kind of understanding the asset. Each asset has its own characteristics and behaviors. And you can expect gold not to move much. And like I said, a 6% move in gold is pretty significant, whereas a 6% move in Bitcoin is like nothing. It doesn't matter. So I think that's the first thing. Understand that each asset is its own character, and therefore you can have certain expectations. Like, it would be unreasonable for me to expect gold to do minus 30% in a week, right? It
Mm.
would be unreasonable for me to expect that. It would be reasonable for me to expect a stock to move down 30% in a week if something bad had happened, right? If it misses earnings massively, if it announces that it's going broke or whatever, then that's kind of normal. And for Bitcoin to do minus 30%, well, that's just part of riding the bull, and it's going to try and kick you off the whole way up. So I think that's the first part. I also think that in terms of mentality, you kind of have to be extremely convicted
Mm.
to be able to stay on the bull markets, right? So to give you an example, I think gold is going to at least 10 or 15K an ounce over the rest of this decade. That's what I think, right? And so the best thing for my mentality when I approach this is I have to kind of, even if I don't truly believe it, like, think about it like this. You've got two traders. One says, well, 15K could be the target, but I don't really believe it, right? And then you've got Camel that goes 15K, let's go, right? And on the one hand, people go, oh, well, you're just a permeable, you're just this, you're just that, you're just too bullish, whatever. But having a strong mental conviction that we're going to 15K enables me to weather the pullbacks. So altering my state of mind so that I'm like, okay, we're going to 15K an ounce. This is certain, blah, blah, blah. And if it becomes invalidated along the way, the chart will tell me that, right? But I think the crucial point to understand is you've got to adjust your mentality so that you're ready to experience the bull market. Because if you enter a bull market and you start going, well, maybe it could do 50%, maybe like, I'm a bit shy, I might get shaken out. That's not having conviction in your assessment. And I think it is very, very important to make an assessment, have conviction in that, and then really, really shift your mentality to a position of power where you're like for example, with me with gold, I'm like, okay, we're going to 10K minimum. If we do 10K, I'm disappointed, right? 15, 20, 25K, that should be on the table. And now, by my shift of mentality towards this 10, 15, 20K an ounce gold, okay, if halfway through the bull market or a quarter of the way through it fails, well, it will break down, it will invalidate, and I'll be able to say, okay, well, I was wrong. right? I was wrong. But as it's moving up, because my mentality has shifted towards a point of conviction, because I'm like, yeah, let's go, 15K an ounce, 15K an ounce. Like, we're not stopping, we're not stopping. Having that mentality enables me to keep a long-term focus on the goal. And then if we get some corrections along the way, okay, fine, but we know the goal, right? And even if you're wrong in your assessment, even if you're wrong with my, if I'm wrong with my 15K an ounce target, then I'm wrong. And that's fine. But at least by being fully convicted in my mind, then any pullback along the way, as long as it doesn't qualify as a technical invalidation, will enable me to stay long. And this is true of Bitcoin as well, right? My whole idea for Bitcoin from the lows since I've had my channel was that we're going to put in a left translated cycle, meaning the top comes before November of this year. That top is going to be somewhere around the 200K region. And the whole way up, I've been like, I'm bullish, I'm bullish, I'm bullish, right? And there's been times where the thing has pulled back 20, 30%, and people have been saying, no, see, you're crazy, left translated, BS, whatever. But the reality is, my mindset has already shifted. It had shifted at the lows at 16K. And ever since then, I've been saying, let's go. 200K is in target. I don't care what happens, right? Unless the chart invalidates me. And so far, the chart has not invalidated me. So having this kind of relentless conviction in your mind is really important. If you were to approach this bull cycle with, oh, I'm not really sure, maybe it's going to top at 60K, maybe it's going to top at 90K, then any kind of shakeout along the way wavers your conviction, right? You kind of find yourself in this position where you're like, well, maybe that's the top, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I really think that being in a position of true conviction is very, very important for whatever the posture is. So do your assessment, have your targets, and then say to yourself, I'm fully convicted with this target, and really, really commit to those targets. So, for example, Bitcoin 200K, gold 15K an ounce, the S&P 6,400 points is what I'm looking for. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Okay, fine. We'll see the invalidation on the charts. But if I'm not, well, we'll just keep moving up, and I'll keep sitting here and pounding the drum of bullishness until the chart says to me, you know what, Camel, it's unreasonable to be bullish here. So I really think that shifting your mentality towards a point of conviction is very, very important, because like I said, if you're doubting the bull market on the way up, then anytime it has a shakeout, anytime it tries to buck you off, you are going to find yourself panicking and worrying and second guessing yourself. So I think that being able to train your mind to be able to look at the target and say, this is going to happen, I think is actually better, even if it's delusional, right? So to use the gold as an example, I think 15K an ounce, if we don't get to 15K an ounce by 2030-ish, I'll be disappointed. But if we don't get there, my mentality is not going to be wavered, right? If we don't get there, right now I'm fully convicted that 15K an ounce by 2030 is coming. And if it gets to 2029 and we're only at 5K, for example, well, at least I have the conviction to ride that bull market to the end of the cycle, right? So I really think that changing your perspective and being convicted is very, very key. It stops you being able to being shaken out. And at some point, if you're going to be invalidated, you'll see that on the charts. So I really think that mentality portion is key to being able to stay on a big strong bull trend.
Can I ask you a question? Because obviously you made that sound very easy, and I'm sure it isn't very easy. It almost, for anyone looking, might be sitting and thinking, oh God, do you just pick a number out of your head and just go for it and have a good mentality and it's going to work or not? I would have thought that maybe you've built that up over experience and time, and I'm sure that would have been the case, surely.
It comes from, well, it can only come from two places. I mean, I suppose it could come from three. So number one is you guess, right? You can guess guess what price it's going to. That's not a strategy I would recommend, but it is a strategy. The other two options that are viable are fundamental analysis and technical analysis, right? Fundamental analysis says that if we're going to peg gold 1-to-1 with the M2 base, we end up at 40 something thousand an ounce. I think it's 42K an ounce. I think that sounds pretty insane to me, but the maths is the maths. For me, as a chart guy, I look at the technicals and I say we can easily do 10 to 15k an ounce. And so I've seen enough charts in my time to know that they don't always play out how you'd want them to. In fact, they rarely play out the way you'd want them to. But if you have an expectation based on the charts, usually 70 to 80% of that expectation comes to fruition. And if you're lucky, you get a bit more, right? So based on the charts, based on my experience, I say we get to 10 to 15k an ounce pretty easily. And that might end up proving conservative depending on how much they print. And then the question becomes, how do we arrive at those targets? Well, we arrive at those targets by extrapolating out prior bull runs for gold, by using the 8-year cycle as a guide. And the rest of it is just having the conviction to stick to that, right? Like I make my assessment, I stand by it. And then, like I said, if the thing invalidates halfway through, we'll see it in the charts and then we'll have to hold our hands up and say, okay, well, we were wrong. The chart is invalidated. But until that happens, then I remain ridiculously bullish and you're not going to shake me until the chart shakes me, you know?
Hello?
CPM, you're dead?
Sorry, I'm puffing on my vape and I'm right next to the mic.
Have you seen the film Cool Runnings?
Yeah.
Running. Yeah.
You know when he's like, Sanko, you're dead.
Yeah, you dead?
CPM, you're dead. Yeah, man.
Cobra, do you want to say anything on that?
No, not really. I mean, look, Camels' experience, as he says, with charts and all that lot is way, way, way above mine. And he has a way of figuring out the possibilities, like he says, comparing it to the M2 and this and that, and then, working out a percentage of what is realistic. I can't even start to attempt to look at things like that, again, because I don't have that knowledge. So I listen to that very deeply and he's right, stick to what you have as a plan and be strong about it. I as I say, with gold for me, I never sort of look at it and say, yep, by 2030 it'll be at 12 grand or 15 grand or 10 grand or whatever, because I don't have the understanding of that side of it. But yeah, I mean, his knowledge is far superior.
I'll say this as an example, right? I was watching a podcast that you two did, and it was only uploaded on the W.O.T podcast channel a couple of weeks back, but the conversation was from over a year ago. And
Okay.
one of you asks the other one, what's your prediction for gold over the next 5 years, right? And at the time, gold had spent a good 4 years just ranging sideways, right? It hadn't really done much. And it was interesting because both of you kind of came up with numbers with around 3.5K. You were like, yeah, if it could be at 3K, we'd be pretty happy with that over the next 5 years. Well, we're only $500 an ounce away from 3K as it stands, right? So it goes to show that, one, when we enter a bull market, things can get very, very heated very, very quickly. But two, also to go back to my original point about having conviction, right? If you're kind of tentatively expecting 3K, then a move up towards 3K and a shakeout, you'd be tempted to say, whoa, like maybe that's the top, maybe that's the top. But by switching your mentality to being like, I am the bull of gold, I am the gold bull, and we're going to 15K an ounce, right? Even if we don't get to 15K, even if we only get to 5, 6, 7, whatever the number is, right? Having that mentality of I'm convicted in my assessment, we are going higher, will enable you to stay on the trend for a longer time. And then so long as, and this is a big caveat, so long as you know where your invalidation occurs, so long as you know where bull market invalidation occurs, so long as you know where we're no longer in an uptrend, we're now entering a bear market or a downtrend or a significant correction, then you can have a framework to sit within and say, we're still going up, everything's going according to plan, and I'm still going to remain the biggest gold bull that there is on the entire internet. And I really think there is something to shifting your mentality to enable you to be able to stay on that trend as long as possible.
I get that. The only thing I'd say with that is that when we talk in pounds, so we're still £1,200 away, not $500. And then the other side to look at is if you average it at 10% a year, then on 1,800 we're looking at another 180 next year. On Then just under 2 grand, we're looking at another 200 the next year. So we were maybe talking in that way of, as it averagely goes up by 10% a year, working it out sort of like that, 3.5 grand. But I get what you're saying. By having the attitude that it's going to go so far, the thing is, you won't shake me out with gold. Gold, as I say, I've stored it, whether it be in jewelry before, like if you look at my bracelet, that's like 300 grams of 22 karat gold, or my rings or whatever. I've kept hold of them for ages. I love gold. It's happy sitting in my safe. I'm happy with it sitting in there. So you can't shake me off of that. So it's a different concept for me to Bitcoin, where yes, I got scared and got shaken out. Gold's very different for me.
I will,
Yeah,
I will have to, it was a really great thing you brought up there, Camel, because I remember that conversation. We used to do a few of those, didn't we, Cobra?
Mm.
And I would honestly say, with my heart, hand on my heart, if you asked me that same question today, I would have a very different opinion. And that opinion's based on my educational growth since a year ago, more than anything.
yeah, you can learn a lot in a year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
massively
absolutely.
so. I was basing it on the knowledge of what I knew. Dangerous could have been, maybe, I don't know. But I would definitely have to be looking at so many different aspects of what I know now to make a very different diagnosis of what I thought a price could be going forward. And that's that educational route, isn't it? More than anything.
Well, the other side of it as well is, if you look through history of the last 20, 30 years, we've never been in a situation in that time that we are in with now. As I say, politically, CBDC, so many different things now, technology and everything that can affect the price of gold in a major way compared to just the standard stuff that's been going on before. And don't get me wrong, there has been situations that's affected gold in the last 30, 40, 50 years. But I think there's so much going on now, which, like we were saying, by the end of the decade, we're going to see some major changes that will affect gold in a massive way. Hello?
Oh,
Hello.
sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry. I had to mute it. My son just walked in.
Oh.
Hello, CPM Junior.
Yeah. Yeah. He's well switched on to this lot. It's really cool. Yeah. Sorry, Camel. I interrupted you a little while ago.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, it's just about, like, I mean, Cobra, the way you're convicted with gold, right? You're, by the sounds of what you say, you are happy with gold, you're certain with gold, and you're happy to hold it forever because you know it's going to
Yeah,
go up, right?
yeah,
That's exactly what I was saying. It's like you just got to have that same mentality for whatever asset you decide to back.
I
And
agree.
then if it's Bitcoin, you're like, okay, I'm happy with Bitcoin. I'm convicted with Bitcoin. It's going up. And again, it's just about knowing your invalidation level, right? Like if
Yeah, yeah,
if the thing keeps going up, even if it has some shakeouts along the way, you can say, well, happy days. This is what Bitcoin does, right? It has these 20, 30% pullbacks. And ultimately, so long as you're prepared for this ahead of time, then you'll be able to stay on the ball and prevent it from kicking you off. Same as for the gold, you're fully convicted in gold. You don't really care what happens to gold because long
yeah,
term, your mentality is fixed in that gold is gold and it's a good investment, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's all it is, really. I think it's just trying to
Agreed.
train your brain to think that train your brain to have the conviction that whatever it is you're invested in, it will work. And then again, all the while be aware where the chart breaks down and where the chart becomes invalidated.
Yeah, yeah.
Brilliant. All education, 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 education. I think, I don't know about you guys, but on my very limited journey, I think I've learned more about myself and how I fit into a new thing that I've been doing for the last sort of 3 or 4 years. I've learned more about myself than anything else I've probably done. It's been a really fascinating journey, and I'm continuing to enjoy it week in, week out, week in, week out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, I mean, even I don't know, it's been a year and a half, maybe a bit longer when I started the YouTube channel and all that lot, and the contact that I've made, say, with you guys and with other people and the chats I've had has really expanded my knowledge on many areas, and made me look deeper into a lot of things. And I think again that comes with age sometimes, or you're driven that way. But the last couple of years, for sure, I've learned a hell of a lot about a lot of things, and it's made me look deeper, which is good.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about this space is that you can never know it all. There's always something to learn. And as long as you're the type of person that enjoys learning and is open to learning, then you can never run out of stuff to research. You can never run out of stuff to look into. And I think that's what makes it an ever interesting, ever evolving space.
For sure.
Excellent. Well, do you want to say anything else, guys? Or that's pretty much 2 hours.
I think we've had a good one.
I think
I've
so as
enjoyed
well.
that.
Yeah,
It's
I
been
have
really
to.
interesting. It's been really interesting. I mean, when you consider we've gone from Trump, unrest, riots, all the way through to some incredible, that last half an hour for anyone new getting into the space, for anyone that's been in this space, just that reassurance stuff that you're not on your own, that, this is not an easy thing. But there's loads of us out there at different levels, all doing the same thing. And thank God there's people like you guys out there that are honest and they're truthful with their conviction of what they do, that are willing to share it. And I thank you both so much for coming on and being the person you really are. I really appreciate it.
It's great to have you back, Cobra. Bringing the fire.
Oh,
We
thank
love it.
you.
Oh, mate.
I'm sorry, I'm a bit volatile like Bitcoin.
No. In the best way possible. I mean, in the best way possible.
Right,
Thank
right.
you.
Let's give a shout out to you two guys. Cobra, what you up to? What we got looking forward to going forward?
Well,
Where can we see you? Where can people find you?
Obviously, a lot of you know my channel on YouTube is Cobra Stacker. I do auctions on Fridays, and I mean, the last auction we did last night was absolutely massive. If you buy gold and silver, whether it be bullion or collectible, Friday night at 7 o'clock, please come and join me and show me some support in the auction. You don't have to buy. Come and join us and have a laugh with us. And if you like the bits, then feel free to grab a bit here and there. Great prices, great times, and I will be pushing out some more videos on my channel because I've missed doing that. So that's to come as well.
Cobra, have you got any 1 kilo silver coins coming in?
I have, as it goes.
Have.
Is there anything in particular you're interested in?
I like the Britannias, but I mean, what have you got?
I will give you a shout on that, and I will look at what I've got coming in. But I can get you Britannias. That shouldn't be a problem. Royal Arms as well, really nice kilo coin. So yeah, bear with me. We'll have a chat, and I'll get you something nice.
Okay, lovely. Because I need another one of those at least.
Cool.
I'll show you my Phoenix for $4,000.
Phoenix. Have you got a 1 kilo Phoenix? Have you?
Yeah.
Wow, $4,000 sounds steep though, bro.
Oh, come on, between friends, you're loaded, dude.
Not that loaded.
I'm just a poor plumbing and heating engineer.
I'm just a boy, nobody loves me.
They are a piece of kit. I mean, even the two copper 1 kilo pieces are just unbelievable to have in your hand. To have like that big piece of, I mean, Cobra's got loads, but yeah, they're amazing. I'm really pleased I actually got a 1 silver, especially in the Phoenix, because it's pretty stunning. Cobra got me that, didn't you, dude?
I did. Yeah, I love my kilo coins. They're not for everyone. They're quite a bit of money, but again, you've got 32 ounces of pure silver there. I think I must have about 12 or 14 kilo coins, so I love them.
32 ounces of pure silver.
Yeah,
That's what a kilo is, isn't it? 31?
yes, 32. 31.1 ounces, grams to an ounce, and then 32 ounces to a kilo.
Cool. Okay. Is that a troy ounce? Or I always get
troy ounce. Troy ounce.
Get that a little bit confused. And Camel, what we got coming up, mate? Where can people find you?
You can find me at Camel Finance on YouTube or Finance Camel on Twitter. I've got a live stream with Kemazabi this week, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you're going to want to catch that one, I think, because about a month ago, we were making jokes that in about a month we might have to have a podcast and say, you know what, we're right here where we're expected to be.
God,
And
yeah, I
funny
remember
enough,
that.
that's exactly where we are. So I'm
Yeah,
looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to hear what Chemo's got to say. And yeah, so tune in and we'll do our best to try to find the top of this stock market.
cool. Thank you very
And
much.
CPM, apart from the What podcast, where can we find you?
You can find me on the What podcast, on the What podcast, on the What podcast, and Creative Precious Metals on YouTube. And God, I don't even know. I am on oh, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. But I don't even know what my handle is on there. I don't really take it overly too seriously.
CPM 21M.
Thank you very much, PA. Really appreciate that. Thank you very
At
much.
CPM 21M.
Hey, cool. Thank you very
So
much.
don't forget, on YouTube, Creative Precious Metals. Don't put it in a CPM, Creative Precious Metals, and you'll find him on there. And he's very creative and very arty.
CPM, if you want me and Gordy to hop on a Whiskey Wednesday, give me a text before.
Dude, yeah, I was thinking about it today actually. I haven't heard anything from Gigi. So yeah, and I know Gordy wants to come on, but he wants you to come on with him.
Hold his hand.
Yeah, I know. We'll sort something out. We'll sort something out. And I'm getting a bit of feedback from a few people now that are quite happy to do a podcast outside of this one where we have sort of maybe 5 or 6, 7, 8 people on all at the same time. So I'm trying to
like a Royal Rumble.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to work that one out.
Okay.
I'm trying to work that one out. It should be good fun, actually.
You'll have to control that really well, CPM, because you're good at that.
Don't you worry. There's a great mute button on here, mate. Don't worry. Yeah, it's exciting times. Again, thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for anyone that's watched all the way through. There's some great alpha there. There's some really good conversations always going on this channel. And please like, share, subscribe to all the guys that are on here. They put a lot of time and effort into it. Please get my subscriber rate up on this channel, because it's really going to help going into the future, because I really do think we can take this to a really good place in the UK. So thank you very much, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you
for having us.
See you later. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.